today's topic will be, Edward, death. I know that you might feel like, oh no, that's so sad. No one wants to talk about death. It's not something that people talk about.
And yet and still, we cannot avoid it.
Yeah, it's if you don't believe in absolutes, the death is absolute.
Yeah.
It's quite absolute.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard when everyone is dying around us. It's kind of hard not to miss that one, you know.
So we are going to today talk about death in the sense of before death, so approaching death. What happens before we die, and then we have other episodes where we talk about like death in itself, funeral, and so on, and then another episode on grieving and how you grieve and the different stages.
And it's only because so many of you have written in to us and talked to us about death. Like you wanted us to discuss death, and so we figured that we had to listen to our listeners and discuss death in these 3 episodes like this. So
I'm still young, so I haven't
relatively
I haven't really like encountered death that often. So I've been to like maybe 1 or 2 funerals in my life of people who I didn't know.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a big deal for me, but obviously I could see all the relatives and the other people who were like devastated. And the first time I saw a dead body was like when I was, I don't know, 14.
Really?
And that was really scary. And that was really scary because that person just looked, ugh.
Yeah. No, I think, my first dead body must have been my godmother. Because my godmother was like old, you know, and then she died. And I remember going to her funeral, and it was just like this, you know, really weird situation where here was this woman who was really strict, and you figured that if there was anyone who would be able to scare death, it would be her. But death won again, you know. When we get to her funeral, I have a funny joke about her funeral and everything, but.
Let's save it for the funeral.
Yeah, let's save it for the funeral section.
Save it for the funeral section.
The funny things that happen at funerals, though. No, but death was so death became something that you had to deal with because I grew up in this congregation with a lot of people who were like really old. Like the oldest person in our congregation, her mother had been a slave.
Oh, wow.
So she was like old. And I remember like when she died and people were so sad, and because I was so young, I didn't understand why.
Why are they so sad?
Yeah, because I grew up in a church where people talked about, you know, like you die and you're going to go to heaven. Jesus is coming back again. And you know, you got to put your faith in Jesus.
It's a good thing.
So, I mean, I'm like, okay, death, whoa, whatever, you know. And then when people died, people were like really upset, you know. And so like it was an unnatural thing, which has always been like one of the weird things for me because death is part of life here. And so why is it such a taboo? Why do people have such a hard time talking about it? Or they try to, and especially, I mean, nowadays, I guess when we're so far removed from death, but these people had grown up on farms. They killed their own animals. They smoked their own hams. I mean, there were people in the congregation who could actually smoke their own ham. Like, cut up the pig, smoke
it. They know how to do it. They know where the meat comes from.
And when I used to eat pork, I tell you, that was some good old ham. You know, like my grandfather's mother, I mean, she had chickens and everything. She's like, boy, go out there and give me a chicken. I'm like, I'm not getting you a chicken, lady.
But in that sense,
she snapped the neck of the chicken, but still death was like a big deal.
But I don't know, in that sense, like death, when it comes to death to like animals, I mean, I helped my parents cut chicken throats and kill fish and stuff and eat them.
It wasn't like in sacrifice or anything.
No.
Okay.
We would eat them.
Okay.
We would make pho of it. That's good.
Okay.
So we would eat them, and I never felt like this was connected to a death in the same sense as when I think of death, someone dies, because you actually have a relationship to that person. That person has thoughts, uttering dreams, had a future, has done something in the past, and I don't know. So when we talk about death, I mean, we have different ways of going to die. Sense of, so you can suddenly die, like a sudden death. Yeah. People feel it's especially tragic when it's young people, it's children, and then you have the scenario of slowly dying. So you know you will die within, let's say, a year.
Right. Well, I mean, I think as a kid growing up with animals, so the first death would be like my goldfish, but you didn't really care about them. They were like really creepy. So you would just like flush them in the toilet. But then when my bird Stupid died, so my bird was named Stupid because it was a parakeet and it couldn't talk. And I didn't know that parakeets weren't parrots because parrot was in the name. So it must be a parrot if it's a parakeet. And so
Is it called your bird?
And so
Stupid?
it didn't, it didn't talk. So it was called Stupid. So when Stupid died, I was really sad.
Because had a relationship too?
Yeah, because Stupid was my bird, you know? And that was like my partner. I could talk to Stupid about anything because Stupid could say anything. Stupid had all my secrets. Now my bird was dead. No, but but I think animals can sometimes prepare us for death. But
People get devastated when their dogs or cats die.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was like... I remember when my guinea pig... So I guess I have these really stupid names for animals. I had a guinea pig called Cold Cut, you know, like sliced meat that you put on sandwiches. And so, and my friend smoked weed in my guinea pig cage, and my guinea pig died, and I didn't have the money. It was going to cost like $1,000 for the guinea pig to go to see the vet, and I didn't have $1,000 back then. So my guinea pig died, and I cried for weeks. I was at work. I was a waiter back then. I was doing the waiting part of my apprenticeship, and I was like devastated, you know. But I think that animals maybe can help us prepare to be aware of death. But, and I think it's definitely a difference between someone you know who dies and someone you know. So I think so my godmother dies. And that was kind of hard and everything. I mean, she was really hard on me and stuff, but I was really sad that she died. But then the first death of someone I knew would have been like my old roommate. So I had an old roommate, Randy, and Randy ended up getting cancer. And I was here in Sweden, and I didn't have the money to go back, and I didn't know he was really that sick. And his brother calls me up on his last like half an hour of life.
Wow.
And so Randy calls me, and he calls me on the phone, and I'm like, man, Ryan, don't say that Randy's dead. That's not cool, man. He's like, Ed, I'm serious. I'm not joking with you this time. My brother's dying. I'm like, no. And like, that was like the guys, we were 5 guys that moved out of the house together. So that was like the first time I left home, and we were like really close, and Randy was always there for me. He was like one of the nicest guys. And we talked on the phone. Like, he knew he was dying. He's like, I'm never going to see you again. He goes, it's so sad. I wanted to come to Sweden. I want to be there when you get ordained as a priest, you know, and like, he had just gotten baptized, that week. And so it was like this really like just big thing. And he called and he said, I just wanted to thank you for being my friend all these years.
Oh, wow.
I want to thank you for all the tennis games and all the jokes and when we were roommates. And I just want to tell you, I'm going to really miss you.
Did he say that to you?
Yeah, he said that to me.
Wow.
So I was
it's
just
not like he's still living. He's going to miss you.
I'm like, wow, you know, and I was like, and then like, we're talking, I'm like, you know, do you feel like you made your peace with God? He's like, dude, I just got baptized. I'm like, okay, I guess so. He goes, I'm like, I just can't believe that you're going to be dead. I can't believe I'm never going to talk to you again. I can't believe we're not going to joke about food or go and eat something wacky or do something crazy. And that was the first real loss that I had due to death. And it really, it really affected me a lot. I felt guilty because I didn't have money to go back to the States. I wanted to see I wanted to be there because his family and I'd grown up together. His brother and I went to school together. But
did you know that he had cancer and he was supposed to die?
He told us so. He told all the friends. He told us that he was sick and that he probably had cancer. Mm-hmm.
But he wasn't really specific.
No, he wasn't specific, and it went so quickly.
Yeah.
So within a month and a half of him telling me that he had cancer, he was dead.
Wow.
So
it was quick.
So it went really, 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 really fast. And
sounds like our friend mom who just got diagnosed, and she was supposed to get chemo and everything, and then she died, and we were like, what happened?
Exactly. Yeah, cancer is like a real pain in the ass, you know, because I mean, my dad got cancer, and I didn't know how sick he was either, and he had made all these plans. So we made plans for him to come to Sweden. We're going to ride motorcycles together and stuff. And then he just died. Like that never happened. He never made it to Sweden. He never.
But isn't
Yeah.
that maybe something that's why people avoid talking about death, because it reminds them of how life is short and how
Yeah.
life is ending, and that maybe all the things you plan are in vain because you are not really in power.
That was biblical.
Yeah, but
we're gonna have the Book of Lynn in the Bible now.
no, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like people realize that, oh crap, so everything that I planned, all the money I put into pension might never be used.
Exactly. But in that case, wouldn't like the nearness of death should make us then appreciate life better? Mm-hmm. If I knew that last week I was certain, I knew that this week would be the last week of my life, I would live it so totally different.
Yeah.
And so actually you would live life more to the fullest. I believe that when you're aware and you accept death as part of life, and I think that when you hold death away, then you're actually living in a fake life, because death will catch up to you. You will die. Death will slap you in the face soon. So, I am death.
And you can do nothing about it. Like
No.
you can drag it out.
But in preparing for death, I think there's a lot of things people can do. So I think things like, I don't think it's stupid like in your age. I mean, you could die. I would hope not. That would be really devastating.
But people in my age have died.
Exactly. But if you were like to think about your own death, and I think people should just write down some kind of idea about how they want people to celebrate their passing.
Yeah, actually, we talked about it yesterday at our friend's home, because his mom passed away, and they were talking about like the cremation and stuff. And I was thinking, like, I don't know what I would want people to do with my remains.
Really?
No, but then we came up, we were talking about...
Would you donate?
Yeah, we were talking about donating and stuff, but that's also a complicated process, because what if you die in a car crash? Then usually your organs can't be donated, because most of the time your brain or your heart has to pump a certain while to you can't be cold. You can't be cold.
Oh, really?
No, you can't.
Really?
Really?
I never knew that. Wow.
I mean,
it makes sense, but I've just like never thought about that. Like, you have to be like...
I mean, your organs have to be living, functioning.
Okay.
Like you can't just put them in the fridge and like, oh, here you go, there's a liver.
Open the refrigerator door. Which part do you want today?
So there is like an expiring date on your organs.
Okay.
That's why like all the organs, you can't really have organ transportation for a long time.
Okay.
Anyway, but that's like what happens if you want to donate your organs, but you can't because, I don't know, you die in a certain way, so you can't donate your organs. So what do you want your body? Like, what do you want it?
Yeah. When I was younger, I wanted my body donated to science.
Yeah, I was thinking about it too, but that's a bit creepy.
But that's when I was really good looking. I don't want people looking at me all fat and overweight and just like no, that's not fun. No, but but I think that just, even if you don't write out fully, I think that could really be a way that helps people to deal with death, because one of the things that's when a person dies is they have to deal with the body. Mm-hmm. It's the people who are alive who have to deal with that. And so it's better to know. Like, that was one good thing about my dad. My dad and I had a conversation, and he told me exactly what he wanted. And that caused a gigantic rift in the family, because my grandmother wanted to pay for a casket that was going to cost, I think it was like $30,000. It was something ridiculous. It was something ridiculous. It was like gold and metal, and it had like a cushion and vibrator inside. No. It had stereo music. Would play James Brown for the next 100 years. I don't know. It was like ridiculous. And my dad said, he says, do not spend any money on my casket. He says, put me in a wooden box, throw me into the ground. So we got a nice wooden box, but it was a wooden box. He would dispose, it would break down really quickly, and that's what he wanted. And because that's what he wanted, then it didn't really matter. Yeah. So
there was no fighting. There was no fighting.
Well, the family fought me, but I'm like, I'm the oldest. That's what he
Dad
wanted.
told me. So.
Bam. So what? So and I think that because people get so crazy around death, when someone dies, people just get really kooky-looky sometimes. And they say things. Sometimes people who hated you will turn you into a saint.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, death is like really weird because people deal with it differently. But so if you know you're going to die, write down the instructions. Write down what you really want. How do you want if there's a certain song you want people to play or anything, just write down instructions for people because it makes it easier.
But what if you don't care? I think then you still should write something.
You should do this. Even if you don't care, there's people around you who care, and it still makes things complicated for them. So it would be much better for everyone to write down just something. Even if you just say, just making a decision for people. Do you want to be cremated or do you want to be buried? That little decision right there solves so much. Because if people don't know, people are emotional, they feel bad. I mean, in our culture, Black American culture, we want to have an open casket so that people they got to touch the body, they got to kiss it and everything. I'm like, oh. I just want to get buried in Sweden, a closed casket.
No one will touch.
Don't be kissing me after death. Kiss me now when I'm alive so I can feel it. But that's our culture. People run up to the casket and they're like, oh my gosh. They are embracing the body, pulling it out of the casket, kissing and touching. And people throw stuff in the casket, like...
Take this to the other side.
I'm like, what kind of weird mumbo jumbo is this? Do you really think that people can take things from this life to the next life, But that's other things too. There's death rituals.
But that's when you die. What about if you know someone who's about to die?
Wow. Well, I think that's, like if you're really close to someone. So, a couple of years ago, one of the ladies that helped us to start Cross Culture, her name was Linnea. And Linnea died. She was just this cool old lady. She never got married. I thought she was kind of cute.
I hope you told her when she was alive.
No, I didn't, because I didn't know how she would take that. No, but like she had Parkinson's, and I didn't realize that she was in as bad a shape as she had.
Oh, wow.
So that actually produced some guilt in me because she was really nice to me, and I was just so crazy busy. And I was thinking, in the day, I was thinking, okay, next week I'm going to go by and see her. And she was dead.
Oh.
So I was like, oh.
That taught you a lesson, didn't it?
Yeah. I'm a bad person.
No. It should teach you. You should not put things off.
Yeah. You should appreciate people when they're alive.
When they're around.
And you should try to visit people when you can.
Yeah.
Because that can end really quickly. But that was one of the things that if I had known, that definitely would have changed. Because if you know someone's going to die, you have to, I think talking about death is natural. And I think most people avoid it. So here's a person we know who's going to die, but we avoid talking about death. But that's that person's reality. And instead of making the best of that time, so whether it's hospice time, so a person's dying, we're just trying to make them comfortable, whether it's just that the person has some other kind of ailment and we know they're going to die, I think helping a person to approach that death with dignity.
With as little suffering as possible.
Yeah. And I think I don't think
with happy memories.
Suffering death is necessarily good. If I always thought that if I knew I had cancer, I was gonna die, I think I wouldn't have a party.
I'm going to Jesus.
The last thing I'm gonna say to everybody is, have your heart heard about Jesus. No, I think I would like to have a party with just some of my friends and people who meant a lot, and just to say, say my goodbye. Because they're going to say their goodbye in the funeral, but I would love to say the opportunity to say that goodbye. I think like what I had with Randy was really so special, to be able to actually say that goodbye to the person while they're still conscious, like I knew my grandmother was going to die, and that was really weird because I went to visit her and she didn't really know who I was, and then she became really lucid. And then I remember feeling like God said to me, she was not, your grandmother's not going to make it to Christmas time. And I just started crying.
Oh.
I was I love my grandmother. She is so important to me. And I told my mom, and my mom's like, well, maybe that's God's will, Ed, and she ended up dying right before Christmas. So that's just another thing to talk about how when God talks to us. But I was so happy because she told me, she says, she just woke up from a dream, and she just said, baby, because that's what she would call us.
With that voice.
She says, baby, she said, Granny really, really loves you. And I just want you to know how important and how proud I am of you. And then she was gone again because she had Alzheimer's. So.
Oh, wow. So she was clear when she said that.
Yeah. It was like all of a sudden like the fog that had been all around her was like gone.
Wow.
And she was like, I'm like, oh my God, did God just do something? Like, well, what just happened? And then she was gone again. But that for me was really comforting to have that little moment of clarity with my grandmother to be able to do
that
my
she
goodbye.
knew who you were and who
exactly.
she was talking to.
Exactly. So it was but I think that helping people to meet death and is really important. I think that including children in that preparation for death is important. I don't think that we should hide death from children. People are always afraid, how are the kids going to take it? Kids are great.
If you tell it them in a natural way, they will accept it as a natural thing.
Oh yeah, kids who come to funerals and stuff like that. I've seen kids, they totally handle death, and then they go out
totally handle
and
death.
they go out and play. Kids are great. Kids are like they're in the moment. They're in all this sadness, and then you get to the the wake or the after the repast, and then kids go out and they're just like they'll go and play. They'll tell jokes. So I think that it helps us as adults when as children we're being introduced to death as a natural process in life.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I work in a pharmacy and we are dispensing a lot of medicine, and when I just started a new job, so they were like calling this one set of medication like, oh, this is the death package. And we were like,
wow.
What's the death? What's the death package?
Is that what you give to your enemies?
No, and they were like, it's like a sedative and it's painkillers, and it's this one for like so you can cough up the slime, and this one to to drive off the fluids and stuff. And we're like, wow. And they're like, yeah, you'll get used to seeing that. And every time I see it, I feel a bit sad. I'm like, wow. So this is someone who's dying. So I'm dispensing medicine. So. And sometimes they're saying so crazy things. My colleagues like, well, just to prove it, I don't think they're going to take it anyway. In the sense of they'll be dead anyway, so you can just pass it. It's fine. And I'm like, wow. So it's crazy. Like, I don't know. There's a different part. Like that's more professional view on death. And
it's just a process.
My mother-in-law, she's a district nurse, and she told me about like the stories when a father died and their children were around, and she's doing all this practical things, but we can go into this like in the other episode when death is actually
occurred
there, where she's like taking care of the body and asking like the people, do you want to help? Like, do you want to clean the body too? Do you want to dress the body? And I was like, wow, cool. I'm so detached from death. So when she's telling me, I'm just, wow, like, how do you cope with that?
When I was a pre-med student, that was because one of my classes at university was human anatomy and physiology, which of course you had to dissect all kinds of animals, but you had two humans that you had to dissect. So I had an older person who died of natural cause, and then I had a woman who was in her 40s who died of cancer. And so the condition of the body is like, it
different.
was easier with the younger person than it was with the older person. But that was such a weird class because the class was totally full. Like people stood. So if you came to class late, you had to stand in the doorway.
Oh wow!
And then you repeated what the professor said into the hall because there was like 35 people in the hall.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't enough room in the class. And so she's like, "This is ridiculous." So she comes back in with this cart. She's like, "This is part of your final exam, so you might as well get used to it." She opens it up, zip, the body bag, lifts up the dead body, the cadaver. People fainted, vomited, ran out of the class. The very next day, there was room for everybody with room to spare in the class. She's like, yeah, that usually clears out the class.
So she's used to it.
Yeah. And
what about people who die young? Like unexpectedly. Let's say, like I have a friend and her sister died in a car crash. Totally, like she was innocent. It's not like she did anything. No. She was just walking there and she got killed.
So with young people, you have three types of death. You have suicide, where the young person chooses for some reason to end their life. You have stupid death. So kids go out and they get drink and they start drinking and driving and they crash the car and people die. And then you have innocent death, and that's where just wrong place, wrong time, bad luck, whatever, and the person dies unexpectedly. I guess you could say fourth, it would be like death by sickness or something like that.
Yeah.
Because there's certain diseases where young people don't live very long and stuff like that. But and people take those deaths really hard. I think that because we have this idea in our head that somehow death is appropriate at a certain age.
Yeah, it's like it's time for you to die now.
Yeah, and like so people are guaranteed a certain length of life, but there is no guarantee.
Yeah.
There's no religion, no faith, no philosophy, no natural processes that guarantee a person's life to a certain age. But for some reason in our heads, we think that psychologically. And so it's that shock that shatters that worldview. Young people aren't guaranteed a long life. And they could, and because we live in the modern age, so if we lived 150 years ago, 200 years ago, where infant mortality was like really high.
Yeah.
It was normal for babies not to make it to their 5th birthday.
Yeah.
And so then a young person dying, that wasn't even anything abnormal. That was just what
it was
expected.
really sad though, but people cope with it because it was their second child they've lost.
Well, they have
third.
15 children.
Yeah.
Just in case, because kids don't always make it to adulthood,
I think those deaths maybe produce even more anger.
The ones before.
No, I mean nowadays,
Yeah.
like I think when a young person dies or children, I think it produces more anger in people and more sense of like unfairness.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you think about it, we live in the age of penicillin now. And since the invention of penicillin and other antibiotics, life has improved. People we don't have that many mass, epidemics and diseases, and people's life has been spared way
and we
beyond.
are used to it.
And we're so used to it. We're so used to the advances of medicine. So we're not at all considering. Yeah, we're not concerned. And that gives us this false sense of immortality. We think that we've defeated death. We think that death is something that happens when we're really old. That's not true. We've just tricked ourselves. We of course we've extended life and more people live and everything, but they still are going to die. And we still have to be able to deal with death. We need a society that is so open to reality so that we can deal with death.
So our message today is talk about death with your pals and your family and your children even, that life is ending. There is an expiring date on everyone. And
prepare for it.
Yeah.
Write down information.
Prepare for it. Tell someone what you want. And it's difficult to talk about, but just do it. I think it makes us more prepared.
Yeah, it does. It's a lot nicer to do that. Well, my computer says, when I'm dead, you open the file and it's all the instructions there. It's really clear.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It says, now you know that. So in case I die, you just open my computer.
Yeah.
It says when I die, and then,
Oh, wow.
follow the instructions.
I hope I never have to do that. I hope you will be immortal.
No. Sorry. Even with good antibiotics, I think that death is looking at me going, we got a date.
So guys, tune in next time when we talk about the actual death.
Yes, we'll be talking about death and in light of the funeral.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us for Fika for Life. Keep writing your questions. I hope that this podcast has stimulated you to think about death or anything else. And like we say, no taboo questions here. So whatever you want us to talk about, just send in more questions and more information, and we'll try to put it into our schedule. Take care, everyone.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. If you have any comments or ideas, please send us a message to fikaforlife@mail.com. Fika, F-I-K-A. This was the Fika for Life podcast with Linh and Edward Thomas, and we hope to hear you again.